Hi, good evening. Welcome everybody from whichever part of the world you are joining in from. We have got a fantastic response for this webinar that has been brought to you by OP Jindal Global University, India's leading social science and research-based institution based out of New Delhi, NCR. This is Ankur Vohra, your host for today. I am the head of outreach and international admissions at JGU. And this webinar is in a series of webinars that we have been organizing for the past couple of months. The perspective, bringing in perspectives from various countries around the globe on how is COVID-19 affecting education sector in different regions of the world. I'm very happy and I'm very honored to have a very distinguished panel here with us today. I think this is an all-star panel and one of the best panels that we have had. All of them are stalwarts, education leaders in their own fields, and I am really happy personally, having done multiple webinars for last months, that this is a webinar that we could put together for you as an institution. Over the course of next 90 minutes, we will be talking about, as the webinar title suggests, global learnings, how each one of them adapted to online learning, and how the panel foresees the state of education in coming months. To set the context right, I would like to begin by sharing some slides that I have prepared, which comes from UNESCO. UNESCO, as we all know, is a global body of education, culture, and they have been coming up with great material about online learning and how it is going to change the field of education in coming months. So we all are affected. We all in education world have been affected by COVID, and UNESCO has come out with a report on adverse consequences of school closures. And there are multiple factors involved. We all know, the kind of situation that our schools in. Probably we are the lucky ones working in great institutions and in great places, mega cities. But there is a different part of our countries, probably especially in India, where people who are at the lowest of the pyramid in the society, the children who are living in cities, villages, who are adversely impacted, and more, I say that the more negative impact is on them. Talking about our kids, the first thing that UNESCO talks about is interrupted learning. We all know that our schools have been interrupted. Our school lives, which were going in routine, were interrupted, not even in months, but in days. In couple of days, we were asked, and hats off to our teachers and our administrators and principals and students and parents who adapted to online learning in a matter of days. But it still is not enough. Students are missing schools. Teachers have had to adapt to online learning. And there is definitely has been an interruption in the regular form of learning that we used to do, or we used to do in our schools and our universities. So that has been interrupted. And as I said, the disadvantage of interrupted learning are disproportionate for underprivileged learners who tend to have fewer educational opportunities. The second factor that UNESCO comes out and states is there is confusion and stress for teachers. Definitely, I think one of the most stressed people in this world were amongst one of the most affected people in this world were teachers, who were the frontline workers, frontline people who were dealing with students in their classes, making the transition to online learning, readapting their teaching methodology. So that is one of the factors that is affecting the confusion and stress of teachers. Another challenge that UNESCO foresees for our schools and institutions is the challenges in measuring and validating learning. How are we going to conduct exams? If you are in India, you know that a lot of our grade 12 board exams are stalled. The CBSE exams are scheduled to happen in July. Similarly, our national entrance test examinations have been delayed, and they will now be conducted in July. But that has again led to a lot of disruptions, a lot of stress for students and administration of these examinations on how we can safely conduct those examinations. My own university, OP Jindal Global University, where we used to conduct in-person examinations on test centers, we had to adapt within days to online examinations, AI proctored examinations, so that students can give the exams from their homes. But not all institutions or not all examinations can be given from home, and there is definitely an aspect of how the institutions, the schools, are going to validate their wards learning. Another aspect where we talked about, the UNESCO reports talk about, is parents unprepared for distance and homeschooling. That is a fact of life. When schools close, parents are often asked to facilitate the learning. Even before COVID struck us, we always used to say that parents have an integral role to play in their child's education. But post COVID-19, I think that the role of parents has become critical. They are the people who are in touch, who are in person available for students, and they are the ones who are going to sort the problems that may emerge out of online learning. You know, like having basic internet connection, good stable internet connection, even for power connection in some of the parts of developing world, having Wi-Fi, laptops. So those are the kind of stresses over and above their own jobs that they are stressed out about. So parents have got an exceptional amount of stress. Social isolation, and this is, I was part of one of the webinars that we were conducting yesterday for teachers in Africa, and one of the teachers told me that, Ankur, my students want to come back to school. They miss the connections that they had with their children. So there is not only the education aspect of school, there is also the social aspect, which plays a very positive role in development of youth. And definitely that is leading to a lot of mental issues for students, for the repercussions of which we are going to see not today, probably in years to come. Those children who have been affected by COVID-19 and their schools are closed definitely will have a bigger amount of stress to deal with. And the last point that the UNESCO report talks about is poor nutrition. As you know, many of our schools in India and in developing world, I'm sure, all are not only places for education, but there are also institutions for midday meals, the meals sponsored by the government, and a lot of these kids who come from the underprivileged backgrounds also have an added benefit of having nutritious, healthy food in the schools. And when schools close, nutrition is compromised. So these are the few factors that are in front of us today, and which UNESCO talks about in various parts of the world, and it's a pretty detailed report. I don't have the time to go into in detail, but I thought these are some factors that we should be talking about and setting the context for this conversation. So I will now close this presentation. I have I want to do minimum talking today because of the stalwarts that are present here with us. I will like to invite on the panel first Miss Asna Nafees, who is the principal and dare I say people's principal in Doha-Qatar. I have the honor of knowing her and working with her on multiple occasions with regards to OP Jindal Global University, and I know, having visited her school and interacted with her teachers and students, I know how loved she is in her community. And I also know her as an educator for last 22 years. She has been with the DPS-Modern Indian School Doha for last 9 years now, and she has been the principal since 2011. She has been an educator for 22 years. She was, and I have no surprises there, that she was the principal at a young age of 35. I totally see her doing that. Being the youngest principal, I think that's an honor that speaks volume about her personality. And as an educator, she has a degree in zoology with a postgraduate degree in education. She has been one of the, I have had the pleasure of knowing her for last many years and working with her, and she has been awarded and recognized by Ministry of Education in Qatar, CBSC. Her students have been doing phenomenally well in grade 10 and grade 12 examinations for last 6 years now, continuously. So I'm tremendously honored and privileged to have you, ma'am, today here as a part of this panel. I would like you to take the floor and talk about the challenges that you as an administrator faced when you were uh, going through this situation and handling it, and you had the the responsibility of your school and stakeholders on your shoulders. Please, ma'am, if you can talk about your institution.
Thank you so much, Ankur, and good afternoon to everyone. And thanks to OP Jindal University for organizing this webinar, especially keeping in mind that we often say that tough situations do not last, tough people do. And if each one of us is here, it's because we had the grit and determination to undergo transformation and change. As the topic says, it's about global experiences and continuing education during a very, very challenging time. And I would like to just put up my perspective on it. We call our school a happy school. We are situated in Qatar. And what it takes to be a leader when the school is undergoing transformation, especially when you're not in touch with each other, you're not meeting each other and still have to go on. So just to give a small profile of my school, the school was established in Doha-Qatar to take care of expat students. And this was in 2001. Our academic year starts on 1st of April, ends on 31st of March. And the students on roll are 5,200 and the teachers are 300. Now, when this situation happened, we were really caught unaware. We had no idea how to go about, though we had a very robust website, which we used extensively. We had a lot of online activities happening, but we definitely had this belief that we do not have all the answers and solutions to the problems that may arise, but we definitely have all this. As a leader, I would say we had a very shared vision that we will continue to impart quality education. And we had the trust and support of our management, our staff, and our parents, and of course our students too, and the belief that we can. And this is definitely something that leadership should believe in. So to start off with, we were given hardly 5 to 6 days time to move from one platform to another platform. And all it took was to have online meetings regularly with our teachers, with dealing as to find out optimal mediums as to how to we would reach out to kindergarten children and how we would reach out to a range of students up to grade 12, that is 3.5 years to 17 years old children. We zeroed in on a few softwares, and the PowerPoint tells us what are the softwares. And of course, we continue to use our school website very extensively. Now, two new terms that we learned were synchronous learning and asynchronous learning. And we realized that luckily for us, our team was able to think in line of matching these two together, blending them together and using them in our regular classes. Now, the biggest leadership issue here is that when you are a leader, you have to keep your team motivated. I mean, it's a team of 300 staff, teaching staff, and about 50 non-teaching staff, and the extended drivers and conductors and other people who are on board. It takes a lot. I think for me, it was very easy because I often call myself as a person who is a people's principal. So we started having a lot of virtual interaction with our teachers and key functionaries to keep them motivated, saying that we do not have solutions to everything, we can work it together. So our teachers were trained on technology, extensive use of various mediums, and on how to use online pedagogy and to how to use online teaching, which would suit everybody, especially with regard to the calendar and the curriculum planning. We had to redo things so that it matches up. Let me tell you that this was an opportunity where our teachers learned to deal with issues at their own level. It was a very decentralized way of working. We decided we would not be too nosy masters all the time observing classes because it's possible. We allow the HODs and the academic supervisors of that level to handhold, observe, give feedback. Also, to just share with you, as the head of the institution, I was very clear I wouldn't enter classrooms virtually to observe teachers till they were comfortable. So it's after about a month and a half of regular classes, positive feedback, that I have started entering classes and observing them. We believe strongly that our parents and our students are the pillars of our school along with our teachers. So we had regular interaction with our parents. We, had meetings, we had online meetings, on our website, mails, we kept in touch with our parents. We realized that we couldn't do this without our parents. And because teaching became something that was so public to everybody's judgment, anybody who could observe what a teacher is doing in a class virtually could be judgmental about what's happening. So we kept our parents along with us. It was a path that we took together. So we believe that this has helped us in a big way because our parents understood and realized the challenge that teachers undergo when there is a sudden change or otherwise also in a classroom. So we did, after a month, we did a parent survey and we realized that the satisfaction levels were very high. It's not that we stopped working, we continue to improve on our quality. In all this madness, when people ask me, how did you manage? I can only look at the opportunities that we learned. As leaders, we realize that trust is something that we have to believe, and you have to believe in your team. So suddenly we realized everything is possible. Continuing education, quality education is quite possible. Professional development programs were online. Our PTMs went online, activity classes, literally all competitions at every single level up to the international level. And our school happens to be one of the reigning champions in the Qatar Debate League. And we had online ceremonies, teacher training. There was definitely one thing that we can take home, that school buildings may be closed, but you can't kill the spirit of a teacher who will continue to educate the students from wherever they are. Attendance improved a lot because it's an expat school. We have about 25 different nationalities. Many of them had traveled because it was the end of the semester. It was the end of the year and the beginning of the year. There was a small break in which people had traveled and then flights were cancelled. So children are joining in education from any part of the world that they are. A lot of collaborative relationships have developed between stakeholders. Children have become the center of, additional responsibility which they have owned up because they are more digitally savvy than we are. So they come up with ideas and they come up with opinions on which we are working. It's a great way to work. And I think this was a wonderful opportunity for team building. And yes, our value systems were strengthened once again because there was no choice but to revisit all our values that we believed in, because if we had to do assessments, we had to do anything, we needed to trust. Another thing that I probably learned is that online teaching is not replacement for actual teaching. What is the future? The future will be definitely, even if schools reopen, blended learning will happen, hybrid learning has to happen, and there will be a mix and match of what we have learned during this time and what we normally do in a regular school. Innovation will be the big word. If you don't think out of the box, we would be lost. And I think assessments really need to be reviewed. We need to understand what is happening. The assessment has to become less of paper and pen tests and more of project-based learning. And yes, we have to work towards helping somehow our children to become emotionally, socially, and psychologically more, fit because they're away from schools. Now, usually when I talk about the learning experience, this is something that is called as a continual learning program. We continue to learn. But the big takeaways from this entire experience is that, one, as leaders, we need to have the strength to be flexible, adaptable, and accept change, decentralize, do not control everything, because there may be lots of people who have better ideas than us as leaders. But then definitely we need to reevaluate everything that we are doing. So trust your teachers, trust your team. They're working very hard. The non-teaching staff at this particular time, they have been really very kind. 5,200 students, books were home delivered. I don't think it would be possible during COVID-19 otherwise for resources to be reaching the homes. So for me, the big takeaways from this is trust your team, continue to believe in each one who is around, and the power of, being together, collaboration, a lot of learning experiences, and there's no time where you have grown old not to learn something new. There's always an opportunity to learn something new. My heart goes out to anybody who has not been a teacher during this time, because this has been a great learning experience. And a big salute to all teachers from all over the world, because I don't think it would be possible without the teachers and the staff that we would be sitting here and talking to everyone addressing each one, because it's they who made the difference. It's they who took up the challenge. Congratulations to teachers from all over the world for the excellent job that you're doing. Thank you. Ankur, it's over to you.
Thank you, Madam Asna. That is a wonderful presentation, and I love what you just said. You know, you feel sorry for whoever is not a teacher in these times, but definitely, and I love your line on the presentation. Schools are not closed; school buildings are closed. So, I love that line in your slide, and I truly believe in whatever you said. I think phenomenal work. Thank you so much for this presentation, coming in from Qatar and giving us an update on your school based out of Doha. Quickly, I want to tell audience, we cannot take your questions via audio, so you will have to type in your questions in the chat box. And if you have any questions to Ms. Asna after her presentation, please type it in now, and I will be taking it at the end. We have 30 minutes, good 30 minutes given to Q&A round. So I encourage the participants here who are listening to us, watching us, to please type in your questions, and I will take it up at the back end of this session. Quickly moving, I want to move to another eminent personality, my dear colleague and friend from Sri Lanka, Dr. Harsha Alice. Sir is the chairman of Gateway Group of Institutions, Gateway Group of Organizations, and under which there comes 5 international schools, 2 national curriculum schools, 1 graduate schools, and 12 training centers. Dr. Harsha is a member of the Task Force for Education, which has been set up by His Excellency the President of Sri Lanka. He is an MBBS qualified doctor and a PhD. He has been a leading educator in Sri Lanka for quite a long time. And again, I have had the honor to work with him closely, visit his schools, and see for myself the kind of transformation and kind of teaching methodologies that were being developed even before COVID struck. And he's very inspiring, and he also loves to share those new techniques that he is following in his school. So he was also awarded the Presidential Award, and he was also awarded 2 young scientist scholarships in Sri Lanka. So I would like to now go over to Dr. Harsha. Sir, if you can talk about your experience, your institution's experience as a leader. How did you manage this crisis, and how do you foresee the future for Sri Lanka?
Thank you, Ankur, and a big welcome to all the viewers from the little island Sri Lanka. Well, Ankur, talking about COVID-19, many people think that it was the nature's way of reacting to many things that were not right, and it was the nature's way of correcting things. And in my opinion, I believe it is also nature's way of correcting education, and it was a wake-up call for every one of us. You see, if you just analyze about schools, I think schools were invented probably before Christ, long years ago, thousands of years ago. I really don't know when the classrooms came into play, but again, many years ago. You take the vehicle or the cars. I believe the first car was invented in 1885. And today, we are talking, or we are living in an era where people are talking about driverless vehicles. But let's go back to school. I think the classroom and the way we have been doing things, we have to admit, haven't changed that much. The teacher standing in front of the students and teaching has been there for many years. Probably the blackboard has changed to white. I'm taking a general picture. I'm not referring to particular schools. Certain schools have worked differently, but very little has changed. So in that sense, I believe this is a wake-up call for us to have a relook at education and to do things differently. And as Asna mentioned, that's where I congratulate all the teachers for rising to the occasion, embracing challenge, and making the necessary changes. That is what is the most important thing, I think, that we've learned through this exercise. In another sense, I think this has given us the opportunity of getting closer to the students. Students, They are born in this IT world. It comes so naturally, and that's the reason they are called digital natives. And we as digital immigrants, I think there was this gap, a gap which was, very difficult to be closed. And this, these 2-3 months has given us that opportunity of closing that gap and getting closer to students. And that is something that is extremely important, that we've been able to get close to students and deliver education that way. And see what we haven't done. We have done everything from the normal delivery of lessons. I can talk about our own institution, Gateway. I mean, we were happy. We are the only Microsoft showcase school in Sri Lanka, and we were quite familiar with the usage of Teams. But still, we all had, basically certain challenges. There were many things that we wanted to do, but we were restricted, or probably time was against us. But this time we learned, that schools have to be given basically targets. This I had, in one of the forums, I raised this matter even at national level. Okay, very often, we don't work on targets. COVID-19 gave us a target. It gave us less than a month or two to really move into online education, okay, or to go into blended learning. Do you think this would have ever happened if not for COVID? It would never have happened. Okay. Similarly, now in our schools, we constantly tell everyone, okay, we want every child to take part in at least one sport and one club. It doesn't happen, right? Should we wait till something like this happens? Probably a different virus, like the computer virus. Imagine if tomorrow, if internet is shut down, I'm sure people won't have any other thing other than, going out of the house, doing a little walk, playing a little sport, whatever. So do we wait for a calamity? I think we as schools, as individuals, as teachers, I think we've realized we have to work on targets. And when we are given targets, we deliver. And that's a lesson that we all have learned through this exercise. So coming back to our own schools, the important thing was, different teachers were at different levels. But today, in our network of gateway schools, where we have 5 schools, we have 550 teachers. Every single teacher from playgroup to year 13 is delivering online. Every member of staff. This is what is important. I don't think we would have achieved this without that. And there's so many case studies, so much creativity coming out of this whole episode. Okay, and that's something I think that we really need to take as a positive. So where Gateway is concerned, we have a full teaching and learning program. We have a sports program every evening. All the sports people deliver things, and children practice those skills. They on their own film them, they upload in something called the Flipgrid. Okay, and we have clubs and societies working. We in fact celebrated our cultural festivals, and we realized that there's nothing that we cannot do. Okay, so that's, I think, something that has been a remarkable achievement. Talking about my country, Sri Lanka, I think we've been blessed, because I think we control the situation very well, and it has been controlled intelligently from the very top to every level, because for the last 40 to 45 days, we haven't had a single case in the community. All the cases are in the quarantine camps, and they are mostly of people who are brought in from the Middle East and many other countries, who bring the illness also with them, but they are quarantined. So we've had a great situation, and we sincerely hope and pray that it will continue. But when this happened, obviously, we being a developing country, we had definitely more challenges than many of these countries, okay? Because it was at different levels. If you take online learning, there are a few things that are important. You need to have connectivity, you need to have data, you need to have devices, okay? And there are many homes in Sri Lanka where there aren't anything. There won't be devices, there won't be any connectivity. and we had to come up with various things. So how we approached was, okay, we looked at different sectors. Universities had the least problem. I mean, they anyway had their systems. They were fully online. Students were supported with data, so we didn't have problems. Vocational sector was okay, but I think their biggest problem was the practical aspect of it. So they had to find ways and means of doing their practicals, which they are working on now. Okay. Then came the tertiary sector, or the high school segment, where they have to prepare for exams. So there, I think through Teams, through Google, there's a lot of work happening where, you know, teaching and learning is taking place. Then we came up with 2 dedicated TV channels for education. So the government quickly moved and delivered this, you know, 2 TV channels. Through that, some children are able to have. But the biggest problem was with the young ones. Imagine when there are houses that doesn't have a TV nor a smartphone. But everyone, I think, has a phone these days, but not necessarily a smartphone. So what we did was, we realized that the most important thing was to connect the child with the teacher. And that we thought was the most important thing. Just through a telephone call, sometimes you could do a lot of things. Maybe the teacher can talk about general values, maybe about home gardening. So we spoke to a kind of a telecommunication company, and they opened up this mechanism where the teacher calls in, and through that they are able to connect to the phones of all the students in the, you know, remote villages. So that has just started, and we want to kind of develop that. So it's a matter of connectivity, because when it first happened, people said they were doing online learning, but what they were really doing was, you know, dishing out as much as possible material through WhatsApp. That's all one way. It doesn't help the students, because there has to be engagement. So now we've kind of carefully basically mapped out the whole thing, where there has to be interactivity, where there has to be engagement, right? But came up with different solutions for different people. But I'm glad we did not wait till everyone came on board, because in a situation like this, the schools that are able have to take the lead. They got to become the case studies for the others. And that happened. And that should happen in all countries, because the last thing that you should do is wait till everyone is ready. It won't happen, I mean, especially in the state sector. So overall, I think it has been a great learning experience. And as Asna mentioned, in that, I think the champions are the teachers. Because for teachers, they were faced with a challenge which they had never faced before. They had to move out of their comfort zone, right? And finally, it has created a situation. Some teachers who found it a little difficult with all the problems at home, who were a little grumbling in the morning to come to school, they all want to come to school. They want to run to school now. Parents who were blaming teachers for everything, they now understand the value of the teachers. They understand how difficult it is to have children at home and go to work. So all in all, we feel when we come back, okay, now we are preparing to come back. Sri Lankan schools are hopefully we will open towards end of July or middle of July. So we are making necessary preparations. I'm sure when we come back, our schools are going to be better, and we are going to have a beautiful country as well. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Harsha. Thank you so much for sharing the Sri Lanka story. Indeed, it's inspiring to have a television channel set up and teachers calling in to students. And as I mentioned, definitely in developing countries, these are the issues that we face, that are faced by us here in India and Sri Lanka or any other developing country, where even the data calls are not available, internet is not available. So thank you so much for bringing a new perspective to this conversation. I now quickly move on to my next esteemed panelist, Dr. Baby Saamuel, who is the chairperson for Board of Directors for Indian Schools in Oman. And I have had the pleasure of knowing and working with him closely too, and visiting a lot of schools in Oman and seeing the transformation that the schools have undergone after he took over the chairmanship of the Indian schools, board of directors for Indian schools in Oman. I think it was 3 years back that he, if I'm not wrong, he became the chairman. He's an entrepreneur, he's a mentor and a consultant. He is, apart from being the chairman, he is also the GM of Intertech LLC, which is an advertising company based out of Muscat, Oman. He's been business advisor for startups, and he's also the vice chairman for Knowledge Oman, which is a largest voluntary organization in the country. And I've been very impressed by the work that Knowledge Oman does. Again, they have the right person for the job in Dr. Baby Saamuel. He's also a social entrepreneur, he does a lot of social work in his home state of Kerala, and he's a founding president there of an organization called Anjupam. Dr. Saamuel, it's an honor to have you with us. If you can please share your thoughts on the topic today.
Thank you so much for the warm introduction, Ankur. Am I audible enough?
Yes.
Thank you, Ankur. Just a second. Is the screen visible?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Thank you. Thank you once again, Ankur, and I'm grateful to be here today, along with this panel, to share perspectives and experience of the Indian schools in the Sultanate of Oman, as we strive to offer the continued schooling and education through this COVID pandemic. Just a second. I think I have lost the screen. Hold on a second. Is the screen visible?
It is visible, sir.
All right. Okay. Until the beginning of the year 2020, the major disruptors ahead were the technological innovations that has been brought in by the fourth industrial revolution, as you see out on the screen. But as we all know, we have met the biggest surprise disruptor of the century, COVID-19, a pandemic unprecedented in a globalized world. The world at large grappling with this pandemic, threatening to affect every single aspect. I don't think there is even there is one element, one domain that this pandemic hasn't affected us. As far as the Sultanate of Oman goes, the first case was registered in the end of Feb, to be very precise, on the 24th of February. Within weeks, school began to implement measures such as increased disinfection, and 4 days after WHO has declared this as a pandemic, on the 15th of March, Ministry of Education announced the closure of the schools. While a lockdown was implemented in many parts of the country by the 1st of April, and by the mid-April, remote lessons we have started across the entire schools in the Sultanate of Oman. And we are anticipating the reopening of the schools by September or later to that as we speak. Before going in further of what exactly we have done, let me just take a minute to introduce Indian schools in Oman. We are the largest network of international community schools in the Sultanate of Oman. We have 21 Indian schools spread across Oman and one center for special education, over 46,000 students. We have over 2,100 teaching community and about 500 plus non-teaching staff on board. We are, as I said, the largest network of community schools. We are also a network of not-for-profit, secular, unaided schools established under the regulations of the Ministry of Education solely for providing education as per the Indian syllabus for the Indian diaspora. Now, what sets us apart from any other private schools in Oman or in the region is that we follow this singular motto that no Indian child should be deprived of the right to education for the want of money. That means that we ensure to provide just not education, quality education, but also that we also ensure to see that no one is deprived of education because of any kind of facilities that we talk about. These are schools which is founded by the community for the Indian students in the system in the country, and it is managed also by the community. But what that means is like the board of directors or the school management committee being community leaders offering voluntary services. So this is a nutshell of what we are. At the same time, the system is also an example of an international community schooling system, catering to children from diverse financial, cultural, religious, regional, and language backgrounds, while ensuring social inclusion. We also come across, or rather, we also have a lot of limitations, major challenges on board. For example, financial constraints due to not-for-profit model with the lowest fee structure in the region, possibly. We have separate school management committees, administration for every single school, but working under unified policies. We have a vast student and parent diversity, families from diverse financial backgrounds, ethnic mix of Indians, diverse cultures, regions, languages of India. So moreover, beyond all this, then the diaspora itself is transient in nature, without permanence. So there are changing dynamics every year. So these are the kind of challenges that we have on board. Now, these are the four elements in which, or these are the four areas in which, or measures we mainly aimed as a response to COVID-19. One, of course, the academic continuity. Another one is the parent relief measures, counseling and mental health, and outreach, community outreach programs. Now, as far as academic continuity goes, our academic term normally ends by the end of March. We take a very short break and we come back, resuming the classes by early April. This is how we used to, how we operate. So by April itself, what we have done, as I said in the previous slide, that we have started on with our online sessions. We trained our staff on online instructions, shifted classes to remote learning. We have decided that we will reduce the summer break, or rather we do not have a summer break as we speak, just a very short break right now, and otherwise, but we have an extended winter break in the month of December. So we have completed over 2 months of online schooling so far. The kind of tools that we use, schools use variety of tools. One is Indian Schools Oman Virtual Learning Environment, a virtual learning platform created as a knowledge repository and a safe online space for cross-connected networking. This we have started in the year 2018. As I said, it's a knowledge repository. We engage, communicate, connect. It acts as a knowledge repository already. Apart from that, the major tools that has been used are one of the schools use again a virtual learning platform which is called ISM Really, the Google Classrooms, MS Teams, GoToMeeting, Zoom application, Destination Success, LearnFlix, ZoomNet app, and of course WhatsApp and emails are being used basically for communication purpose, and especially in the interior areas where we have challenges with people who are not able to get into other communication platforms. A lot of challenges that we have definitely come across. The journey has never been an easy one, especially with the teaching community. The challenges with the lack of experience with remote learning. Our biggest challenge has been our teachers were not familiar with remote learning tutoring. Although most of the schools had some version of smart classrooms and were using some of them as part of the curriculum, but as we all know, remote learning is a different ballgame altogether. So we had challenges in terms of lack of technical familiarity, lack of experience in remote teaching, and of course we have overcome that with regular training programs. The lack of devices has been a challenge, so prepared, and the lack of digital lesson materials. So teachers prepared lesson plans and study materials suited for these digital tools, suited for the age and need of children through collaboration and shared networking. Another important thing, another challenge has been engaging students during the live session. So this was solved through other teachers or supervisors acting as moderators and invigilators for the sessions. monitoring the screens for the children's attention or the lack of it. So this is how the kind of challenges that as per the teaching community faced and how we have overcome it. And as my fellow panelists have mentioned, that hats off to our teaching community, the school administration, the teaching community, rising up to the occasion so splendidly, I would say. The kind of challenges and solutions parents have faced is the access to devices, internet access, device overlap, technology adoption has been a major challenge. So multiple tools have been used to address such kind of scenarios. Report lessons were in place. We ensured that we had a parent-teacher engagement very regularly to understand what are the kind of hurdles that they faced, and if you have siblings on board, then we kind of manage the timings accordingly. If we had issues with device challenges, or people were not able to get into access to the communication platforms like Microsoft Teams or Zoom, teachers are trying to ensure that students receive the notes and assignments to whatever platforms that has been possible, be it WhatsApp or by emails, or ISO VLE has recorded lessons on board. So these are the kind of ways that we kind of address the challenges that parents faced. Security challenges were there. So initially we didn't go for paid versions, at least in few schools, but then we realized the importance of it. So those applications like Zoom, we have changed the paid versions of it. Lack of textbooks has been an issue due to travel restrictions. So we did, it was like, few schools have managed to send the books through courier services. There have been innovative models like, we have opened up, there are 1 or 2 schools have opened up counters in hypermarkets where we started supplying, sending the books across to the parent community. Screen use, time usage, especially in the KG classes, have been an issue. So that has been off-screen activity assignments, and minimal time has been given to such kind of, for the KG and kindergarten students and stuff. So we believe that there is no one size that fits in all kind of solution. So what we are basically doing, especially in interior areas, is letting that the teachers and parents communicate between themselves and find out what best works for it. We have been conducting surveys regularly taken by the schools, and majority of the parents seems to be happy with the kind of online instructions and online deliverables that we are giving. Extracurricular engagements have been a challenge, but we strongly believe in, as a schooling system, our prime motto is holistic education. So we are slowly but steadily getting into engaging our students on the holistic way of education, non-core subjects and extracurricular and co-curricular activities. But let me tell you this, I strongly believe that the students have become a lot more resilient. They have begun to take a more active role in their own learning, and students and parents too have become aware of the fact that they need to take charge of their learning process. Especially as my fellow panelists have just mentioned, that there is a newfound appreciation of how one teacher manages 30 to 40 students when they find it difficult to engage their own children. So just to quickly run through the kind of parent relief measures that we have offered. We have deferred the fee hike proposed for the year. We have reduced the burden of cumulative fee giving parents by the option of giving monthly remittance instead of quarterly. With effect from May till the month of August, we've decided to collect only tuition fees. All the non-tuition fees are being waived off. 50% concession on tuition fee until the end of the academic year 2021 for those who have been affected or emotionally COVID-19 positive during this term, and if they have financial constraints, we give a 50% concession. Over and above, overall, I would say that we have announced relief measures of over $2.85 million during this time as we speak. Counseling and mental health, we have a 24/7 round-the-clock counseling service, which is called the Here For You, Let's Talk, which has been there for a year and a half at this point. But we have opened this service for the parent community as well. Our student counselors are also available during this time for on-call or dedicated services. We have community outreach program. Every school has a helpline, a dedicated hotline number. Parents can communicate, engage with this particular or with the school authorities through these hotline numbers. Food kits have been supplied or still supplied in association with the Indian Embassy. So these are some of our community outreach engagements. Very quickly, what do we do once we open the schools? What next? We definitely, it is going to be a very dynamic process of learning for the schools and school leaders. And we will need to await instructions and mandate from Ministry of Education, Supreme Council, the Ministry of Health, and likes. We are preparing for various scenarios based on the global experiences in reopening and our own unique challenges and situations. We are following, with the UNICEF has issued guidelines. So we are ready with the different permutation combinations to open up our schools. Physical distancing is going to be in place. Definitely blended learning is going to be the new learning. Spacing students is not as easy as a thing that we can just talk about. Staggered timings, shifts, reduced class hours are some of the thoughts that we have in mind. Of course, increased health precautions, which doesn't have any kind of a compromise that we speak about. There will be routine hygiene checks, which will be happening, monitoring, screening, masks, sanitizers, frequent disinfection, and less. The changes in the teaching scenario, as I said, online or blended learning is going to be the new norm. New innovative ways for engagement has to be in place. New innovative ways for the 21st century skills definitely need to be there, moving away from the old curriculum-based teaching. Collaboration and efficiency is going to be the new best practices in place, and every single teacher needs to be a counselor in the days to come. As our schooling system goes, some of the major challenges that we are facing in the days we are anticipating in the days to come is the revenues and sustainability. Parents are financially challenged. No questions asked about it. Decrease in the new admissions is another issue that we have in place as people lose jobs and decide to move back to India. Repatriation, health and safety. The cases in Oman are increasing, and there are no treatments or vaccinations in sight as we speak. So this was a great need of ensuring and healthy and safety for staff and staff as well as the students. Stress management is an issue. Student-teacher ratio is quite low. Infrastructure changes, our limitations in infrastructure too might pose a kind of challenge. Last two slides on it. We need to have definitely a responsive 21st century school, and for which what we need is we need confident teachers who are willing to innovate, and we need strong leaders who allow, or rather to establish a condition in the schools that enable the former two to, those two ingredients to flourish for us to create a responsive 21st century school. Effective skills development requires alignment of different components of the system, be it curriculum, pedagogy, different assessment, learning environment, but the simple factor is that we need to keep the learner at the middle of this whole ecosystem. And COVID-19 is the best time to shift a teacher-led learning from the traditional teacher-led model to a learner-led model. I think that's very important. The increasing dilemma between a teacher versus digital, what a teacher can offer cannot be offered by digital, because this has been a discussion over and again in the academia. And I would say the human connection, the inspirational mentoring, and the transfer of love for learning cannot be replaced by any digital model. The way ahead is a new way of being, modified curriculum and engagement, different performance management system in place, health, hygiene, and safety protocols, emergency protocol manuals, and definitely a community collaboration. Every single stakeholder has to join hands together to ensure that we have a new model in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Saamuel, for that exhaustive presentation. Really, it puts in context the great work that you are doing with the Indian schools in Oman. I know Oman is a vast country, and a large number of schools serving the Indian community across the country. So thank you so much for all that you do, and my sincere gratitude to your teachers and staff that I know very closely are working around the day and night for this. Now, quickly moving on. Okay, sorry. Before moving on, I just want to remind the audience that we have the questions being taken in the chat box. So any questions, anytime, just mention it. I can see there are already 8 questions there. We will answer it in about 20 minutes time from now. Now, quickly moving to my next eminent speaker, Ms. Nargish Khambatta. She is the principal of DPS-Modern Academy, Dubai, and she is also the vice president for education of GEMS Education UAE. Ma'am has been a leading educationist for last 32 years. She has been awarded the GEMS Exceptional Head of School Award, which was the first time that award was awarded to somebody in 2018. She has been a panelist and presenter at various international forums. She has attended 4 international IPN conferences in US, China, and Australia. She has an MSc in microbiology as part of her education. And she has spent time with schools such as the Dhoonooah School, Indian School Muscat, Sophia College in Mumbai. It's an honor to have you, ma'am, here today with us. I will request you to please enlighten us with your presentation.
Thank you very much, Ankur, and it's indeed a pleasure to be on this panel and to listen to the views of all my colleagues. I'm smiling because Dr. Saamuel ended with, "It takes a village to raise a child," and as if on cue, it is the child that I'm going to speak about. So, and Dr. Saamuel, I've also, volunteered at one of the special education schools that you said you have, as well as, taught in the Indian School Muscat. So I see a connection with all that you're saying, and I'm so glad that things have changed since then. So I represent DPS-Modern Academy, and we are part of the GEMS, the Global Education Management System schools. These schools, there are 49 schools in India, more than 30,000 children. Just in 4 of the schools that I happen to line manage, and with 2 in India. I'm indeed very, very blessed to be part of this wonderful institution for the last 10 years. And we are a for-profit organization, but I always say that, GEMS knows education so well, and I'm very privileged to be working for a company that actually puts the focus on the child, puts the focus, on education per se, and they really, really understand education. And my school itself has been outstanding for the past 9 years. We get a rating here. And Excellencia is the motto that we go by. But, we've won so many accolades in the past. So in 2017, we won the Future Ready School of the Year. But did we little know that in 2017, what is the future going to be? And, this is a very poignant image out here that, what got us here won't get us there. And truly, this is the time for an absolute paradigm shift. If we don't make that paradigm shift now, we'll absolutely won't be able to serve the very children that we are here to serve. In education, it's all about serving children, and you always keep the child at the center of everything that you do. And Ms. Asna, you saluted the teachers, and I salute them too. But I want to send out a special kudos to our students, because I think the resilience with which our students have faced the challenge that they had has been absolutely tremendous. As adults, I think we're bound to change. We're bound to respond and react to change. But children, they're nervous, they're scared. The group that is graduating, my goodness me, can you imagine? They're going into university. Their whole freshman experience is not going to be there for them. And what are we saying to them? How are we managing the anxiety and fears? There are some students, who haven't been able to even think about schooling ahead in grade 11 because they haven't finished their grade 10 exams, they haven't finished their grade 12 exams. So, and then you have the kindergarten babies, and you have the parents telling us that, what is this online education for a KG baby? But today it has completely changed. Our parents have changed, their mindsets have changed, children's mindsets have changed. I think the true heroes in this, after the teachers, are the children. Truly, their resilience has, taught us many, many lessons. And I think, so when I talk about the students, I'm really talking about putting the E in the student experience, because whatever we were doing online, can we continue doing that now? And we really had, this whole pandemic has thrown us into, it's a three-phase process. The first phase, of course, is the disruption phase. That was the initial, what were the initial responses? What were the lessons learned? We had an unsettling zone, then we had a learning zone, then we had a growth zone. And we are currently in that growth zone where we've learned our lessons, and we're really looking at how to leverage the lessons that we've learned and park them in a way, craft experiences for our students that are going to make a difference. Now, one very bold decision that we took. Now, all schools were having the investiture ceremonies, and they were saying to children that you're the head boy and you're the head girl and you're the house captain and you're the prefect. And we thought that there'll be 20 children that we're honoring with this whole investiture, and the student council is probably going to be 20 or 25 students maximum. What about the rest of the children? And so we took a step back and we said, let's flip this on its head. We said, forget about an investiture. We don't want a student investiture. So today, my school has no head boy, it has no head girl, it has no house captains, it has no prefects. But instead, it's got an entire student council that in grade 5, in grade 8, and grade 12. Every student is part of a council, and they choose that council based on their passion that they feel, they chase their passion. And these councils, it's like unleashing, it's like absolutely unleashing a different kind of power. These students have today, gone to another level. The kind of initiatives that they've taken, the kind of clubs and societies that they form, the kind of, social entrepreneurial processes that they've put in place, the kind of experiments that they're doing, including social experiments, it's completely blowing us away. And therefore we say put the E in the student experience. So we got the E councils, and we put a structure in place, obviously. So all the processes happen online. The mental well-being of a child is so important. You can get the academics absolutely right. You can get the pedagogy right. You can get the technology right. But if you don't cater to their mental well-being and social well-being, physical well-being, then you failed the children. And so we said, what is it that we can do to help our children? So the children came up with the idea of the e-masterclass. That is, our senior students go down to our juniors. We have the grade 11 and 12 students coming down to our grade 5 and downwards. And so we have artists, we've got graphic designers, we've got ballet dancers, we've got origami specialists. Whatever their area of expertise or specialization, they are coming down to the primary classes and having these special classes for our children, and the children are loving it. If you look at our Twitter handles, it's exploded with wonderful responses from parents and from children. So these e-masterclasses are going brilliantly well. I always say there's a silver lining. Who would have thought that at 8:30 one day I was in my night dress, having just finished dinner and sitting back with my husband watching TV, and I get a Teams call saying, ma'am, can you join us? I said, join us for what? And they said, ma'am, please join us. And I went in, and there was the finale of the debate competition for the grade 8 students. And I said, at 8:30 in the evening, what are you guys doing? They said, ma'am, 3 days we've trained. So the senior debating society came down, they trained the children, and then these children, were ready to showcase their skills in the finale. That's the kind of engagement that we've had. It's absolutely amazing, including NUM. E-mentoring, the students are actually teaching children in their free time on Fridays, on Saturdays. They're having small classes, of course, supervised, but it's the children teaching children. The kind of publications that they've come up with, I wish I had the time to showcase this, but really it's been fantastic what the children are coming up with. E-fitness, so we've got every day these children put out a fitness challenge, and they insist even I do it and upload a picture. I haven't gone to the stage of uploading the picture yet, but all of our teachers, parents, everybody's participating in all of what our children are putting forward. Digital miles, so we can't have school trips anymore. We can't, but we're having e-trips. And, we've gone on a tour of Ghana, we've gone on a tour of Nice in France, we've gone on a tour of, there's just so many interactions. So we're clocking our digital miles. Also, networking. I mean, it's amazing the power of networking. We got into our homes, we got actors like Ali Fazal. We had, poets, the Irish poet who's actually helped in the transliteration of Sheikh Muhammad's Flashes of Thought. Yesterday evening, we were in conversation with him last evening, and he blew us away with the magic of words. And this is, just sitting at home. So we've been bringing in all these wonderful people into our homes. The list is long. I can go on and on and on. The list is long, and one day I hope to invite our panelists as well into our schools. But that's the power of the networking. And the one I'm most pleased about is the entrepreneurship. It hasn't dimmed their spirits at all, the fact that they've been at home. So they've started Compassion 21. Compassion 21 is a program that's initiated by our senior students and our entrepreneurship teacher. They've collected more than 21,000 dirhams in the past 1 month. And they've not only done that, but they made sure they've got a runner service, and they're providing for all the support staff, the drivers, the conductors, the maids, the aunties, the nannies. They've got food packets for them, dry food, rations, oil, masalas, rajma, chawal. They've got all of that into packets and have sent it to their homes. And these are children. Nothing is stopping them. So, please, let's put the E in the student experience. Let nothing stop. And if you look at that image to the right on the screen, I love that image because it really shows, let them fly, truly let them fly. If you're looking at the next one, please, yes, the agility with which we have to really think and move, really. And that agile thinking has to be data informed. I heard all of my colleagues talking about, surveys and being, informed by those surveys. But really, what is a data-driven instruction module? And what are the elements of a data-driven instruction module? I am mindful of time, so I'm not going to explain the model, but it's up there for you to see. And based on the data that we collect, and it's constant data. It's not that it's done once and it's forgotten about, but it's the data's gotten and it's, sorry, can we take it back, please? Yeah, the data that we collect goes to inform the policies that we put in place. And we've had to recraft entire policies, but today we believe that our children are thriving because we're listening to them, we're listening to their parents, we're listening to our teachers. And with all the data that we're collecting, we're being agile in forming new policies. Next slide, please. Sorry, can we have the next slide, please? Thank you. So we always say that you raise the adaptability quotient. People talk about EQ and IQ, but today is the day for AQ. It's the adaptability quotient that you really, if you see that chameleon on the side, you can't tell what is its natural color. That chameleon is adapting, it's camouflaging itself. I know, Asna, you're a zoologist, you'll smile at that, but that's what we're looking at, to be able to adapt depending on the situation we are in. So reconstruct the normal, that's what we're saying. Our pedagogical standards have to be completely changed. The learning experiences for our children, it cannot be textbook based anymore. We're saying crank the mindset. Enable children to think and act like positive change makers, and you'll see that they really are. Networking, we've already talked about it. Go global, that's what we're saying. Expand your horizons, absolutely go global. The leadership cannot be instructional leadership anymore. It cannot be didactic and top-down leadership. It has to be distributive, it has to be collaborative, and more than anything, inspirational leadership. And that's what will make the wheels turn. And of course, data-informed practices. Can we move on, please? The last slide, probably. So what are some of the key takeaways that we really have, for us? Ankur, next slide, please. What is the new normal? So, everything today that we're experiencing is the norm. It's not the new normal anymore. The new normal was 3 months ago. Now this is the normal. And God knows what's going to change after this. But structure your own rapid response toolkit. Create your rapid response toolkit. Identify who are your people who are able to adapt very quickly, put systems in place. Like I have a senior supervisor who's so agile in his thinking. The moment we put a remote learning plan together, he says, but we need to have standards. And immediately he created the bronze, gold, and silver standards. And today our children, we've got data to show how well they've performed, how many have attained the goals standard, etc. Explore the leadership opportunities for children, teachers, and for the leadership team. Allow data to instruct and inform policy. More than anything, establish and evaluate impact indicators. If you don't know what impact you're creating, then it's pointless. They say the 3 I's are the most important. You can have the intent, you can have the implementation, but if you don't have the impact, the first 2 are useless. And so it's the impact that really is going to make the difference, and therefore establish and evaluate your impact indicators. And then of course create a mindset and a culture of learning, because without that, none of this will be in place. And network, network, network. The world is your oyster. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Nargish. Thank you so much. It's indeed very relevant to this conversation, bringing in the students' perspective. I think you are absolutely correct. The students are a key part of whatever we do in the schools, and they must be saluted for the work that they have done to adapt to learning. But I will definitely, I was very impressed by the e-virtual e-miles that your students are collecting. Having traveled myself for 35 plus countries and Ghana and all that, brought me back my memories of being at airports. So that's a phenomenal initiative that I probably would like to know more about. Now, I'm very cautious of the time also. So I have my last eminent speaker here, Madam Prabha Dhoonooah, who is a dear friend of mine from the beautiful island of Mauritius. She is a career counselor, chemistry teacher, dean for studies for grade 13, but I would say she is the voice of Mauritius in education sector these days. If there is anybody that I listen to for Mauritius education, it's you, Ms. Prabha, and I am happy to have visited you and worked with you on a couple of projects for OP Jindal Global University. And I keep following your Facebook post on what is happening in Mauritius education. I'm very happy that I could have you here today with us to share your knowledge. You have a very close connection with India. You are a BSc from Delhi University and a postgraduate in careers education from Napier, Scotland. You have been associated with College du Saint-Esprit, which is a leading Roman Catholic school for boys for last 30 years. And having come and seen your school and students, I know you are again a people's person. So please, if you can talk about the current situation in Mauritius and how you are dealing with this situation in your schools and the education sector. All over to you.
Thank you for your generous introduction, Ankur. A very good afternoon to you, to all panelists, and to all the attendees. I'm really very grateful to you, Ankur, and to OP Jindal University for this great opportunity to share my experience on continuing education in terms of COVID-19. I'm so happy to be on this platform today, not only to share my experience, but especially with all that I have learned from all the panelists here. It is really a wonderful opportunity. So to begin with, being on an island, insulated by the sea, we were wishfully hoping not to be touched by COVID-19. Unfortunately, 18th March 2020, our first official case of COVID-19 registered. 19th March, closure of all schools. And 20th March, total lockdown in the country. And we have had perhaps one of the strictest lockdowns in the world, with all malls, with all recreational facilities, with all sports grounds, with all cinemas, with all activities being closed down. And it lasted for as many as 71 days. Very unpopular measures have been taken, but it paid in the end. So today we are having only 2 active cases, which are very much under control, and that also they are not local cases, but they are cases that we call imported, that is from people who have traveled from outside. However, having said this, I should admit that COVID-19 has taken its toll in all sectors in Mauritius, and education has been also highly impacted by the pandemic. So in the beginning of the lockdown, it was all confusion and chaos, as we had been taken really unawares. Then the Ministry of Education came up with a communique that it was mandatory for all teachers to conduct online classes on Zoom for grades 10 to 13, while educational programs were being broadcast on TV for grades 7 to 9 students. So we have got three types of schools in Mauritius, namely the private fee-paying schools. We have got the confessional schools, in which sector my school is found. And then we have got the state schools, which are run by the government. So for the private fee-paying schools, it was taken up very readily because they were already using this model, these methods of teaching. But in the state schools and in the confessional schools, it proved to be more difficult, as teachers have not had a prior training for that type of teaching. However, fortunately for us, teachers learned very quickly. That is, within 2 weeks, it was the classes were really on wheels and everything was going as it should be. So, however, we have had a few issues in the classrooms, though they were not widespread, such as we have had some interference from parents. We have got students disturbing the teachers. So the ministry then shifted to Microsoft Office 365, which has been adopted as the uniform platform to date. But in our sector, there has been greater flexibility. Teachers have been allowed to use Zoom if they feel like, Google Classroom, or even WhatsApp to teach. Like in all other parts of the world, however, in Mauritius, unfortunately, some students have been left out of the system due to various factors, such as we have had lack of connectivity to internet, not having a smartphone, or even no privacy at home to connect to the classes. Some teachers in our sector especially, they could not even conduct regular classes as they were taken up with voluntary social work, such as delivering food packages and other basic necessities to needy elderly people. Some students also opted to stay out of the system due to the laziness. However, fortunately, many parents have been very cooperative, doing a regular follow-up. So this is a bit about the difficulties, the challenges that we had to face due to the situation created by COVID-19. However, COVID-19 has also impacted other dimensions of education in a very positive way. One thing that I've noticed is that the students have started taking charge of their own learning process. They are learning to become autonomous learners, while the teacher is stepping back now, and he's more playing and adopting the role of facilitator and mentor instead of simply being there to give out notes to students. And to illustrate this myself as a teacher, I would like to take an example of my grade 13 students. So every Monday we conduct working out one paper within the deadline, within time limits. So in this case, the students have decided to themselves moderate the way the work is going to be carried out. So we have one student who is acting as the leader in this case. He's the one who is responsible for taking the attendance. He's the one who is monitoring that the work is being conducted in the time limit. He's the one seeing to it that the score is being sent to me when the work has been corrected. Students have also willingly developed or been led to develop soft skills and qualities. They have developed greater self-confidence through a better individual relationship with the teachers. Also, as school counselors, we have given them the opportunity to attend webinars which are conducted by university reps. They have developed not only communication, writing, creativity skills, but have also learned how to discern and to make wise decisions, they are developing the problem-solving skills. But the more commendable skill they have developed is the power to adapt, as so many of my friend panelists have said. And this is definitely going to help them in their lifelong process. And here I would just like to mention one more thing. Yesterday, we had 5 of our students who even participated. They were the guest speakers in a webinar talking about how COVID-19 has affected the students, what is the way forward. And I'm really happy that they have been given this opportunity, because till now we have been we have been listening only to the adults, but listening to the young people there with the dreams, how they have kept their dreams afloat was really a wonderful experience. And this webinar, it has even connected them, it has connected us to schools abroad, to people abroad. This morning itself, we obtained our first invitation for participation in the MUN by the Sri Ram School of Commerce in Delhi, which I consider to be really a wonderful experience. And it is a wonderful opportunity. So I would consider this as the silver lining to the cloud through COVID-19. So education is continuing. Education will continue, though not in the same way. I think it is no longer going to be only the whiteboard marker post-COVID, but rather a blended hybrid system of the traditional way and through technology. You will agree with me that classroom will no longer be the only physical space where learning is going to take place. The advantage of this hybrid system is definitely going to help us as educators, as teachers, to be able to continue dispensing learning, even in adverse situations, even on short spells where schools are going to be closed, such as when we have got torrential rains, which are quite common from January to March. So instead of having simply school closures, the teaching, the learning can continue. So now I would like to conclude by saying that to make the new form of education more effective, we should bear in mind the 3 C's: cooperation, collaboration, and cooperation between the stakeholders, and not the one capital C that is coercion from some stakeholders. Thank you. And once again, thank you for whatever I have learned, the takeaway that I'm having for my school. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Prabha. Definitely, you know, you are such a nice and humble soul that you always are grateful for the learnings. But we are grateful for you to have, for us to be able to have you here to share your learnings of this pandemic that we are all going through. And definitely, the 3 C's are very relevant statement to your learnings. So now coming quickly, I'm mindful of the time. It's just 7 minutes that are remaining. We are running over time, but I will quickly take some questions. I have my questions box full, but what I'll do is I'll bucket those questions together. So quickly, I have the first question, which is going to, okay, from Mr. Libby Cherian, and this is directed towards Nargish for you. Libby has written that you mentioned e-mentoring. That's a very good idea. Can you please elaborate on how we can implement it in our school?
Sure. So it depends what you want the mentoring for. In our cases, it's both academic mentoring as well as socio-emotional mentoring. And for the academic mentoring, it's easier because once you identify who are the students who are able to, explain in small groups, you're just widening your capacity for people to, be teachers, in other words. So the e-mentoring that happens is usually a grade 11 or 12 student who tutors or works with a student from grade 8 downwards, even up to grade 9. And whether it's math or it's English or science, they fix up these meetings in these channels which are supervised, and they come in and they deliver the content. So the beauty of the system is that the children, because it's almost peers, it's just a couple of years senior, they're very comfortable asking questions. They don't feel, that they're out of place, raising their hand and asking something that's worrying them, and they go down to basics. If there's a math problem that they don't know, let's say they're teaching them fractions, they probably go down to, so where's the gap? So we've taught them how to do a gap analysis, and then they do the gap analysis, and then they go down and teach the students where the gaps are. So I think that's as far as academic mentoring. As far as the socio-emotional mentoring goes, we've got counselors. So there is a program in Dubai that is being run by the Lighthouse Arabia Group that is called the mental first aid. So we've got students, luckily just before COVID broke out, we had a group of our grade 11 students who had this whole workshop done with Lighthouse Arabia, and they were given certificates as mental first aiders. And so now those are the ones we've activated, and they have the one-on-one with the students. So students share their problems. And if it's a larger concern, they bring it to the senior counselor. It depends what the problem is. If it's something small that they can handle and just calm them down, they do that. But if it's a larger problem, they take it to the counselors.
Thank you, Nargish. Thank you so much for elaborating. I have my next question coming in from Rakesh Sharma, and there are multiple others.
Ankur, could I just add on to that?
Please go ahead.
In this e-mentoring, what we have done is we have moved on to our alumni also helping the children. So alumni are addressing. So you have a huge gathering of students all over the world. You can pull them in and get them to, address some of the issues. So that could be added on to your.
Perfect. And while I have you here, there is a question for you from Mr. Rakesh Sharma, who is a teacher in Doha. He asked, and there are multiple other questions on the same lines. He says, how to keep senior students motivated to concentrate and switch on their camera in virtual classroom. So he is asking you the solution to this problem that we are all facing. How do you engage?
I'm surprised that this type of a question has been asked, but maybe there are students who do not want to switch on the cameras because they would like to do other things. But then it directly reflects on the quality of teaching that's happening. If you are a teacher who can engage, and if you're a teacher who can collaborate with your children, you don't have to do the teaching all the time. Flip the classroom. Automatically the cameras will be on. If you ask one of the classmates to teach, or maybe a group of children present something, definitely the cameras will come on. So I again would shift it to the teacher. The teacher has to relook as to where things have to change. And again, do not always think that you are the one who's the knowledge giver. The teacher is just today a person who is helping self-learn, the child to self-learn. So keep that motivation high. So I don't think cameras would ever be a problem again. I hope I have answered.
Thank you so much. Yeah, definitely. It's a very relevant answer, and I think definitely the onus lies with teachers here on how to handle their classes and how do they make sure that engagement is happening. My next question quickly is to Dr. Harsha. I have a question for you from Mr. Satpal. From Doha, he says, how to tackle equity in online access for students from different backgrounds. I think you touched upon this during your talk as well about the television. So if you can talk more about that. Dr. Harsha, can you hear us?
So as I mentioned, basically, I believe that learning has to be a two-way process. Okay, and so in that, I think the key things are basically devices, connectivity, data, and the platform. Okay, and we have to understand in countries like ours, I'm sure you are faced with that similar situation in many countries, we cannot provide all those to everyone, at least not at the moment. Maybe priorities of the governments would be very different in time to come. Okay, I mean, even now you could see telecom providers have been very innovative, have been very generous. They've been coming up with attractive packages, so on and so forth. But still, these things cannot be done overnight. But important thing is to establish in whatever way possible a two-way process, because at the beginning of this whole episode, people were very comfortable in just dishing out material, and that became an overload sometimes for students, for parents. It became a problem. Okay, the easiest thing is to send study packs and send material. So I quoted the example of what we did with the primary schools. I mean, we've just made a start. The government has just made a start. We want to kind of broad base it. So through the telecom provider, the teacher is able to connect with the students. I think research, not only in developing countries, but even in developed countries, the little ones, the biggest problem is they are unable to see the teacher, they are unable to communicate with the teacher. The teacher has such a huge influence. And of course, peers, just the ability for them to speak to their friends, right? I mean, you have to understand, and just like e-mentoring, I mean, peer learning is a huge resource, right? And sometimes we don't realize that in schools, it happens automatically, okay? But when they miss the peers, it's a big problem. So at whatever level possible, we must establish a two-way process. That's the most important thing. So it could be television, okay? It could be simply through a telephone call, right? And of course, thereafter, you have various mechanisms using, the phone, the iPod, and, basically tabs and laptops. But it has to be done at different levels depending on the situation. But I think it's a good lesson for all the governments. I think we really need to address this issue, because I don't think the impact was felt this much. I mean, though people were talking about connectivity and, supporting all the children, right? This showed the kind of disparity that exists in most countries.
Thank you, Dr. Harsha. Thank you so much for the explanation. I will now quickly move on to the next question. And this is for Dr. Baby Samuel. Sir, Giriraj Prajapati has asked a very specific question about library data. He said, what are Indian schools doing with regards to library data? Are you using any software so that students can access library online? And which database, which software are you using to do that?
Am I audible, Ankur? Because I just tried to take out my...
Yeah, you're audible.
We, as I just mentioned, as far as Indian school goes, we do not have anything very specific to it, apart from having the virtual learning environment, which I just mentioned about, ISO BLE. But apart from that, we have also shared across, I have seen circulars that's going from different schools about various, platforms which are available where you can access books. So these kind of circulars have been, sent across. As a parent, I have also received circulars on those lines. But if there is anything very specific that they need to know where and how to access this, I'd be more than glad to share more information to it. Share me the email IDs and I can just share the links on.
Thank you, Dr. Samuel. We're just running out of time. I will just take a couple of more questions. There is one question, Prabha, for you. It says, Satpal has asked, our parents, do you think after this pandemic, parents will realize the importance of teachers and they will become better consumer of education services that the teachers provide? So the concept of he wants to know what is happening in Mauritius with regards to respect for teachers and parents understanding the challenges that they have.
Definitely. It doesn't have to wait post-COVID. It is already there, because every day we are having calls from parents asking us for advice about how to tackle certain situations. And not only the parents, but I think everybody has realized the importance of teachers. And I can say that there is so much more of collaboration, because before it was just comparing the way of teaching of different teachers. But now we are having parents who are so happy that every teacher is able to help their students and their children. And we have even a sort of collaboration between teachers such that if one teacher is not able to take a particular class on a particular day, and his colleague from the same department is able to conduct his class, so the students from his class are able to join the other class. And parents are really very grateful that for the work that is being done by the teachers. And as a teacher, I'm really looking forward to the new normal to meet the parents who were creating sort of problems.
Just to
Okay,
add
thank you
on,
so much for that.
I'm saying it in a very positive way.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Parents have, suddenly found time for everything now. And if there is any collaborative activity, they're willing to pitch in and do activities for the school. Like we're going to have a dental workshop, which is going to be virtual, and one of the parents is going to do it. So this, normally they wouldn't have the time to invest probably when it was a normal. The new normal has given them the opportunity, the flexibility, like Mrs. Nargish mentioned. Late in the night also things are happening. There is no fine line between school hours, non-school hours. So it's a lovely learning experience. And the spotlight on school education and teachers is really beautiful. It's very nice, in spite of all the difficulties that COVID-19 has brought.
Thank you so much. I have one last question because we have run out of time. It's for Dr. Harsha, and it's from Arjun Ramachandran from Indian School Mulada in Oman. He says, Dr. Harsha, how important is evaluation during this period? And how do you plan to make evaluation standardized during this phase? And I think this is the question, last question that we take. Dr. Harsha.
Okay, I'm not too sure when talking about evaluation at what level he's talking about. I think evaluation has to take place at all levels, from the classroom to the school to probably the Ministry of Education and the country at large. I think there's so much to be learned. So basically, if I may start at the lowest level, probably teachers will understand now that the children who are asking questions all the time in the class, okay, will be now a little different. There would have been so many who are now comfortable in raising questions and while they are being taught online, okay. And I'm sure teachers would realize by now that it is important to give attention to every single child, because I think that's something that would emerge from online. And obviously they will think, right, that you cannot just depend on the same lesson every day. Every single lesson has to be different. And the preparation, I must tell you, preparation for teachers online is far greater than just preparing for a normal lesson. I think this is something that the teachers realize, and I'm glad about it. You have to understand, in our teacher community, we have people who have the same set of notes, right, year in, year after. Okay, now they understand it cannot happen that way. Because online you can't just simply talk. Okay, you're just talking to a screen. You got to bring in your creativity. Otherwise, the attention span, 10-15 minutes, the children will, do various things. So that's one thing. So you got to evaluate yourself. As schools, there are so many things that we realized that we were just wasting time. Okay, sometimes meetings, discussions, could we have saved so much time? Even parents meetings, when we had parents meetings through broadcast, parents were texting us saying, this is the greatest. We didn't have to drive, we didn't have to park, okay, and we didn't lose any time. So they are kind of, really happy about it. So schools have to take those things into note. Ministries of Education, where you should prioritize. Okay, is it just that looking at the city schools, is it enough? See the gap now. Okay, and country at large, I think you need to understand. You need to understand the disparity. You need to work on this. You need to support. And I believe the country at large should understand and support the teachers. Okay, teachers are a group that have not been supported well enough all over the world. I think you need to support the teachers a lot more. But having said all that, I mean, we have just gone through 3 months, but we cannot ever discount the human factor. Okay, we are all talking about technology now. The human interaction is far greater than all of it. Okay, true, we have to take all this learning back, but it just that we simply cannot operate like robots. Okay, we need to think about human interactivity, sports, co-curricular activities, clubs and societies. It's this blend that would make us better. So that's the kind of evaluation that we would always have to be mindful of.
Thank you so much, Dr. Harsha. I think I have one very good question from my dear colleague in Sri Lanka, Ms. Vinita Shinoy, who is the principal at Gateway College, Colombo. And I think all of the panelists, we can conclude by this question, and I would like all of you to answer it. She said, how are you planning to appreciate the teachers who have taken the baton and run a fabulous round for their students? So are there any specific ideas in your head that you are going to recognize those teachers in coming days? I'll start with Ms. Asna, if you can talk about any recognition that you're planning for your teachers.
Yeah, like I was having a short discussion with you all before we started. To keep the team motivated, we had asked them to go in for a lot of creative work also to just keep the stress off, because it was a lot of stress when we were moving from one platform to another. So there are lots of things that have come out in the creative field of, lots of teachers who have painted, done creative work. So when they come back, we're going to have an exhibition of it, probably generate some funds which we could donate somewhere. Plus, my management has made it very, very clear that there would be a huge celebration once school reopens for the way teachers have worked very hard, and the entire school system is just not about teachers, the entire support staff. And it's going to be a party time at that particular point, wherein we would be celebrating the efforts that every single person has put in to make the impossible possible. A few years before, if we spoke about going online, people looked at us and said, what's wrong with you all? But today it's just like how a fish takes to water. We've all taken to it, and it looks so easy that even after school, whatever may be the situation, once we have built up this foundation, we will only grow on it. We can't go back and say that, okay, if schools are physically open, we'll stop doing this. So there is going to be a lot of goodwill that is, the teachers have generated it. We have not forced anything on them. They've willingly taken up the baton, and so they need to be celebrated. And I think at my school, it's always a lot of positive things for teachers. We always have good things happening for teachers, and this is definitely a point of celebration. I can't say about pay packages at this moment.
Thank you so much, Ms. Asna. I was planning on that question.
Yeah, no, but
if Nargish can take this question now.
Teachers, they continue the way they are without any deductions for all the efforts that have gotten.
Perfect.
Yes,
Nargish, if you can.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So I have a slightly different take on this, and I believe that teachers are by nature intrinsically motivated, and I think for them it's the little wins that we celebrate rather than and the big celebrations are important as well. I mean, I totally agree with that. But I think when those wins happen and we see them happening, and that's what we celebrate. So every Saturday I write my staff an email, and in that email, a large chunk of it is to celebrate what they've done and what they've achieved, and that happens on a weekly basis. Every time there is, so I look for my inspirational mail for the day, and every time a parent has written in or a teacher has written about another teacher, I send that to all staff. So when you do that, people wonder who are you going to highlight next, or what has the person done that's going to be highlighted. So it's on a daily basis. It's not, and I think there's power in that as well as the big celebrations. Also, I think the fact that the teachers are wanting to learn more. They are celebrating themselves. We've never seen this kind of interest in professional development. Earlier, we had to kind of coax people into professional development, but now the moment you announce it, people are signing up. The moment we share, I saw a great lesson here, everybody wants to sign up and get into that person's lesson. So I think the more we put effort into intrinsically motivating teachers, the longer lasting the impact is going to be. And absolutely at the big celebrations, Asna, I hope we are going to be invited as well, and we certainly invite you all as well. So we certainly need those big celebrations. Yeah.
Like, I completely agree with Nargish, because
Thank you so much.
money is never an issue at all. It's not the monetary thing that's important. It's always something from within, that achievement, the power of achievement. That's more important.
Dr. Samuel raised his head immediately when you said money is not an issue. Immediately raised his head.
I don't know, at least my team.
So I'm going next to Dr. Samuel.
Not that
Definitely, we're going to acknowledge this.
Dr. Samuel, if you can talk about this question.
I totally agree with the fact that no questions asked about. We're definitely going to acknowledge the teaching community for the kind of journey, kind of the way we have crossed this. No questions asked about it. We will have a huge celebration to this. But beyond all this, I mean, financially, keep it aside. That's different. Our system is slightly complicated in nature. Every school has a school management committee. We have an 8,500 plus students with 400 plus teachers to a school with 40 students and 4 teachers. So technically, it's not possible for me to make any comment on any kind of monetary benefits and engagements. But beyond all this, I would say one of the greatest beneficiaries of this entire scenario is the teaching community. Because K-12 educational system was supposed to be blended learning long time back, all right? Rather, that's a way ahead. Okay, blended learning is going to be the new norm, and it was supposed to be the norm from a while ago. So, but we have just jumped in there, and our teachers are well equipped to get there as well, and they're all geared up for a blended learning or a new norm to be in place. So I would say one of the greatest beneficiaries are the teaching community as well. They have come a long way as well. But keeping aside, I know what the question is all about. We are definitely going to acknowledge, celebrate, and we always give our teaching community, we keep them at the center. We strongly believe that they are the missionaries of our vision, very clearly. So we definitely acknowledge that. That's from my side, Ankur.
Thank you, Dr. Samuel. I quickly move to Dr. Harsha. Sir, this is a principal from your school. So how are you going to acknowledge her good work?
Yeah. So I hope Vinita is not going to track me on this. Anyway, basically, I think teachers, as mentioned by my colleagues, I think they should understand, okay, but their role, the profession, I think has kind of really been stepped up through this whole exercise. Forget about the money aspect. The so-called decorative professions, maybe in the airline industry, in the hospitality industry, in the large corporates, we know what has happened. People have lost jobs, had job cuts. Thankfully, schools, it hasn't happened. And I think a good majority of schools, and I salute all of them, have considered the fact that taking care of their teachers was their utmost priority. I mean, we are a private organization, okay? And these days, it's been a nightmare, right, to collect fees. That's the truth, right? But many schools like ours have always given priority for the welfare of the teachers. And that's something that I'm sure many teachers would appreciate. But moving forward, I think what we have to do is to decorate this profession more, bring in a lot more value to this profession, okay? And it's already happening. Many schools wouldn't allow, parents to come and sit in the classroom while teaching is going. But that's exactly what is happening today. Okay, they are sitting in the classrooms. They watch every single lesson, right? And you could understand how challenging the task must be. But I think they kind of made sure that they broke all those barriers, okay? And I think that confidence that they have got is immense. And I think we, as Nargish mentioned, basically professional development is extremely important. And all in all, I think what we should do is to strengthen their role.
Harsha, if my last comments from Prabha, what do you think? How should teachers be recognized, Prabha? What is your take on that?
So being on the other side of the table, that is being a teacher, I can simply say that I hope we are going to be celebrated. We are going to be celebrated, but I leave it to the management to decide how they are going to recognize the effort that we have made. But as a teacher, I can say that we are being celebrated already each and every minute when we look at the way our students are looking at us. I feel so privileged, and I think it is the happiest moment that I have been living through the COVID, through the interaction with my students. They are so grateful. The parents are so grateful. And in all humility, the greatest celebration has been that none of my students has been out of my class right since 19th of March. So this is already the greatest celebration for me.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Prabha, on that inspiring note. I'm really honored to say that this was a wonderful conversation. We went 20 minutes over time, but it didn't feel like that we are 20 minutes over time. If I can go on, I can go on for another hour, but I know we all have appointments to go to. So thank you so much to my fellow panelists. On behalf of OP Jindal Global University, I would like to say our sincere gratitude to all that you do, the teachers, the staff, the management, the administrators that you are that are, you know, day in and day out working hard to ensure uninterrupted access to education. My sincere gratitude to each of my colleagues that were present today in the panel. Each of you are doing phenomenal job, and my sincere gratitude for accepting our invitation and being on this panel. So it's goodbye for now, but probably we will come back again for the next series of webinar with the OP Jindal Global University. Thank you so much. Namaskar. And I wish you all the best to all the listeners, all the panelists. Stay safe, stay well, and we will come out of this soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. It was great collaborating, and we'll keep in touch.
We will. Bye-bye. All the best.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Bye.